I've been running and hiding for the past 2 hours, but I can't seem to shake them off my trail. My legs are about to give up, but if I don't outrun them, they're going to kill me. Crying for help isn't even an option anymore, because if I scream, the only thing that I'll do is give them away my exact location. My name is Sarah Delfino. I'm a sophomore in high school. The reason I'm cutting my life has to do a little something with my boyfriend asking me out on a camping trip, which was 3 days ago. My classes had just ended, and I was walking toward the exit along with my best friend Ella, when my eyes caught a familiar figure waiting outside for me. There was no way I wouldn't recognize that doofus, even if he was hiding among the crowds of students rushing outside. The way he was looking around seemed like he didn't see me yet, and as I walked a bit further, maintaining the same pace as before, his eyes finally met mine, and his lips broke into a charming smile enough to melt any frozen heart. Mine wasn't frozen though, it's just the same. I walked to him only to see that he was holding a gift box. Another one? Didn't you just give me a gift this morning? I asked with a silly smile on my face. Well, it's your birthday, and you did say that I could do whatever I want for you on this day, he replied while scratching the back of his neck. How could anyone say no to this cute creature? So I took the gift he was grabbing, and after saying goodbye to Ella, I started walking home with Frederick. By the way, what brought you to my school? I'm sure it wasn't just for this, I asked, showing him the gift he bought. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking since tomorrow's Saturday and it's your birthday today, so why don't we go on a camping trip? Just the two of us. Judging by the way he was fiddling with his fingers, I could tell how nervous he was. Sure. He was ready to say something, but as I agreed, he looked at me with bright, surprised eyes. Guess he thought I would say no. Anyway, so we walked to my house while talking about the trip and what preparations we needed. And once we got there, I gave him a goodbye kiss before heading inside my house. My parents knew about him and trusted him more than their daughter, looking at how his family was friends with Aunt Helena. That was why when I asked them for permission, they didn't hesitate once and allowed it. We started our drive to the nearest woods the next morning at 7, and it almost took us 5 hours to reach there. After setting up our camps in a safe place, we started discussing what to do next, and that was when an idea popped in my mind. I told him that we should play treasure hunt. He would hide some of his things across the perimeter, and I would do the same with mine. Each would only hunt the thing that the other person had hidden. Yeah, I know it's childish, but how the two of us were with each other, silly and childish. Anyway, so he acknowledged my idea, and we started playing. As I was looking around the bushes and trees to search for the things Frederick had hidden, I couldn't help but feel that I was being watched. I turned around multiple times to see if anyone was there, but there wasn't. But the feeling of someone watching me didn't go away, even after a few minutes. So I stopped the treasure hunt and went to the area where my boyfriend was. I told him about it, and he took me back to the camp, stopping the game right that instant. A few hours passed and nothing out of the ordinary seemed to happen, so we figured it must be some wild animal that I mistook for someone. We had been on a few camping trips before and had been there once as well, so we knew that there have been a few coyote sightings around the area. Apart from that, we never brought more than 2 bottles since we knew there were always water sources around there that we could fill up the drinking water. So a few hours later, when we were taking a well-known path to the creek to get some water, we spotted 2 men who were walking towards us, possibly for the same reason we were here for. They gave me a strange look, and then passed a smile which made me feel uncomfortable and disturbed to a fault. But I tried to ignore it, thinking they might be trying to act friendly. Any doubt I had was removed when instead of filling water in their container, they approached me and tried to become needlessly uncomfortable. Their over-friendliness pissed Frederick off, so he asked them to just back off. But instead of feeling threatened, it just pissed them off. One of the 2 men shoved him to the tree and punched him in the guts, making him grunt with pain. At this point, I knew they were no ordinary men, but instead some sort of thugs. That's when the other man grabbed me, causing me to squeak at the sudden force applied to my waist, while one held Frederick down, preventing him to do anything. The seriousness of the situation sent shivers down my spine, but I tried to establish my ground by acting as calm as possible. I tried to ask them politely to let us go. We didn't want any trouble, but they looked at me like I was speaking gibberish and started laughing. They dragged the two of us to their camps, where a few other were like them, and by the looks of it, they were some bike gang members. This was where the real nightmare started, as they started touching me in inappropriate places and tried to do unexplainable things to me right before Frederick's eyes. Helpless tears started falling through his eyes watching all of that while he screamed and threatened them to let me go. At some point, he managed to break free and beat a few men who were on me, and we started running from there. I was too horrified by everything that I could do nothing but shake and cry. As the two of us were running away, I heard a few gunshots and turned my side to see Frederick fall. I tried to get him up and run with me, but before he could, another bullet was straight fired to his head, snatching his life away. My legs started to feel numb. My breathing started to get haggard as I saw the lifeless body of the man I love. But there was nothing I could do anymore. If I were to stay there any longer, they would catch me again and do all those nasty things to me, what they failed to do before because of Frederick. So I got up and started running. It had been about 2 hours now, and they were still on my trails. I know I'm not too far from the road. Just a bit further and I'll be there. I kept running in the direction where I knew where the road was. Finally, I'm here now. I just need to find some help. Reaching the road, I looked around panting, but as I was suddenly run in the middle of the road, I didn't see the truck coming straight in my direction, till it crashed into me. Now as I think I'm on the verge of my death, it's okay to die like this. They took away my treasure anyway. I'm thankful that at the very least, they couldn't do anything to me, and that I got away from those dirty men. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. I don't know how long it has been since I got stuck in this basement. You may be thinking, who am I? And why am I stuck here? Well, I'm just an ordinary guy who is in love with this woman. Her name is Sarah. She's my best friend's wife. If I were to explain the whole incident in details, I would have to tell you the story from the beginning. This story starts when Sarah, Jack, and I were all friends and nobody had married anyone. Jack always had a crush on Sarah, and eventually they got into a relationship. At first, I did not have any romantic feelings towards Sarah, but one day the three of us went on a trip, and during that very trip, I fell in love with Sarah and ended up being obsessed with her. Let's start from the very beginning when I first saw Sarah. It was a day when Jack was talking about the new girl he had a crush on, and we were in the cafeteria to have some lunch. He was telling me that, you know the new girl that transferred, the one I have a crush on? She's just unbelievably nice. The other day I was walking past her classroom and I saw her helping a fellow student with her note, even though she's new. Hey, here she comes. That's the girl I was talking about. He pointed his finger towards the gate of the cafeteria, and I saw this tall girl walking by. She had a long, silky, straight hair that was red, and she had blue eyes. She was very thin for a girl, and she was in a tomboy attire. She didn't look that appealing to me, but I couldn't say anything to Jack because he was free to have a crush on anyone he wanted. Jack was a very socializing person, so he instantly called Sarah and asked her to have lunch with us. Hi, I'm Jack, and this is my friend Edmond. You are the new girl, right? Do you want to have lunch with us? As she came over to our seat, he started talking to her. She agreed, and while having lunch, we started talking. She wasn't that bad. We could be friends. That's what I thought. The three of us started to hang out together, and slowly we became good friends. Jack's crush started to grow, and one day he told me that he's falling in love with her. He asked me if he should confess to her. At the time, I was in support with Jack, so I told him, "Don't worry, dude, go ahead. I got your back." Jack smiled from my response. Of course, he was my best friend, and I would have always supported him. The next day, school had just started. That was when Jack walked in with Sarah in the class while holding hands. They told me that Jack confessed and they had started to date. Everything was normal except for the fact that Jack and Sarah were dating now. After about 6 months or so, we planned to go on a trip. It was supposed to be a camping trip. We took permission from our parents and started to prepare for the trip. After the preparations were complete, we headed out, and during the trip, Jack and Sarah started to argue for some reason, and even during the camping, they were not talking to each other. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was feeling uneasy, so I thought that I should take a walk. When I was walking, I saw Sarah sitting beside a tree and she was crying. I went ahead and started to console her, and she leaned her head over to my shoulder and continued crying. That was the first time when I looked at Sarah's blue eyes and they were red from crying. Her eyelashes were wet and her mascara had a smudge. I felt something in my heart. That was the first time when I thought that Sarah was the most beautiful woman in the world. After the thought crossed my mind, I instantly pulled myself away from Sarah and went inside my tent. That entire night I couldn't sleep. I was only thinking about her. The next day, Jack and Sarah made up, and she looked happy. Seeing her bright smile made my heart beat even faster than the last night. I couldn't help but feel jealous of Jack because Sarah chose him. But I did not want to hurt Jack, so I decided to never let anyone know. But my plan failed soon after, when I saw Jack and Sarah kissing. For some reason, I was so angry and jealous that I wanted to hurt Jack. But he was my best friend, so I gathered my thoughts and calmed myself down. A year went by, and it was finally the graduation day. Jack had decided to propose to Sarah after the graduation ceremony. For some reason, I was hoping that Sarah says no, but since Sarah was in love with him, she accepted. They married a month later, and I started to have anger issues. I got angry for every little thing. I would sometimes beat a complete stranger who had pissed me off. I could not gather the courage to attend their marriage ceremony. Instead, I was at my home drinking the entire time and thought that I had lost Sarah for life. But then, a plan came to my mind. I thought, what if Sarah were to lose her husband? She would be devastated, and I would be the one to console her that night, and I would make her fall in love with me. I started to stalk them. Whenever Jack and Sarah both were together or were on a date, I would always follow them without letting them know. And when Sarah was alone and Jack was at work, I would watch Sarah. I memorized the entire routine. They used to go on Tuesday evenings for dinner dates and movies on Saturday. Apart from those days, Sarah was always alone at home and I would watch her. After Jack left for work, she would do some house chores, laundry, etc. And when the housework was complete, she would open her laptop and start working on it. But one day, she decided to join a gym. On the third day of her gym, when she could not do pull-ups, her trainer grabbed her waist and made her do the entire set of pull-ups. I got furious from that. I thought even I never touched her, so how dare he grab her waist? Sarah left after working out, but I waited until the trainer left for his home. He was walking past an abandoned building when I hit his head with a big stone that I had grabbed before following him. He stumbled. That was when I hit him again on his head with the same stone. He fell. I continued hitting him while he was groaning from pain. I kept hitting him till he passed out. I was mad. I was furious by the fact that Sarah married Jack and then made love, and how Jack could touch her and kiss her whenever he wanted. I was furious that his trainer was able to grab her wrist when I never touched even her hands. After I finished hitting him, I checked, and he was dead. I had killed him, but I was not regretting it for some reason. That was when I thought, this is the perfect time for me to kill Jack. I followed Jack to his home when Sarah was in the bathroom. After Jack went inside his home, I rang the doorbell. Jack opened the door, and he looked happy to see me. "Buddy, long time no see. Come inside. Tell me, how are you doing?" "Wait a second, let me grab the beer from the kitchen." As he was talking, I followed him to the kitchen and grabbed the knife from the counter. He was opening the fridge when I stabbed him in the back and kept stabbing. That was when I noticed the footsteps of Sarah coming toward the kitchen and immediately tried to hide myself. While I was hiding, I heard Sarah scream, and then I heard her calling 911. When the police arrived, I wasn't able to get out of the house, so I somehow managed to hide in the basement. I don't know, I think a day had passed. I cannot figure out how long has it been since I got stuck here. I can hear the wailing sound, a police siren. I can hear that the search is going on. I guess they're trying to find evidences regarding the murder, and I have no idea if I will be able to get out of here or I will get caught. I was aware of the possibility of getting caught from the day I decided to kill Jack, and from the day I started stalking them.
Messages from my ex. My name is Spencer Green. I'm a 27-year-old baker who works in East Manhattan. Oh no, I'm not an unhappy single man. I married the love of my life, Lucy, 2 years ago, and I have a newly born gorgeous daughter with her. Anyway, the incident I'm about to tell you is something that happened the year I met Lucy. That was 5 years ago. I got reminded of it in the morning when I was working in the bakery and heard two young lads talking about getting into a Facebook scam. No, my story is not related to a Facebook scam, but yeah, it's related to Facebook though. It was one night when I was scrolling through Facebook when I received a notification that said that someone had sent me a message. I checked, and it was from the girl I dated in the final years of high school, Mary. And the reason that I broke up with her was that I caught her cheating on me with not just one, but two other guys. Now, Mary's someone I still don't want to have anything to do with or even a formative conversation with, so I ignored her texts. I don't know why I didn't think of blocking her right away, but I should have. I continued scrolling through my phone, and that's when I got the urge to use the bathroom. So I put my phone down and went over to do my business. On my return, when I checked the phone, there were 20 message notifications from her, in which she was apologizing and saying that she would do anything to have me back, including things like she knows that I still have feelings for her, and that was the reason I did not block her right away, knowing that it was her. And I thought that if she thinks that that was the case for me not blocking her, then I should do it right away. After blocking her, I went over to scrolling through Facebook, and that's when I got another notification. I got a text from a different account, and it was Mary again. And she was angrily asking me, how dare I block her? Again, I did not reply to any of her messages and just blocked her right away, giving her the hint that I wanted nothing to do with her. Which she did not get, because 2 days later, I got another message from a different account, and the message read, "No matter how many times you push me away, I will keep coming back and breaking your boundaries because I love you." I know what she might be thinking while sending this. She might be thinking that this is somewhat romantic, but it was not. I only found it creepy. This time I got frustrated by the constant messages, so I decided to reply. I think I made it very clear that I do not want anything to do with you, so stop with your messages. It's irritating me. After this text, I blocked her again. For a few days, I did not receive any more messages on Facebook, so I thought that she finally gave it a rest. But one day, when I went home from work feeling tired, I found the lock of my front gate broken. So I immediately ran inside and searched around to see who broke in. The moment I walked into my bedroom, fixation filled my mind. From what I was looking at, it was Mary. She had decorated my room with red roses, and she was lying on my bed in the scud herself. That sight was sickening in itself, just to make me feel nauseated. I quietly walked over and grabbed her hand. She looked at me smiling and thinking I would get seduced by her nastiness, but I jolted her from my bed and dragged her outside. After doing that, I went to my room, collected her clothes, and then went back to throw them on her face. I'm leaving you just by a simple warning, but if you do something like this again, I will report you for breaking into my house. As I said that, she stood there while looking at me with a mortified look. It was good if she felt embarrassed by her actions. She should have been, but I don't think she felt that way. Instead, she felt humiliated enough to falsely report me for something I did not do. The next day, 2 police officers came to my house to question whether or not I harassed my girlfriend. I immediately understood what was going on and tried explaining every single detail to the officers about what had happened. But instead of believing any of my words, they gave me a warning that it should not happen again. I could not believe how low she stooped just to make me sleep with her. All I could think about was how to get out of this situation. I changed the lock and installed the security lock along with a camera on my front door, just so that if she breaks in again, I would have proof. The same evening, I got another message on Facebook from a new account. I knew it was her, so I checked what she had to say now. The message read, "I told you I would come back and break your boundaries, didn't I?" I immediately took a screenshot of this just in case, but I still had no idea how to prove myself innocent if she falsely accuses me of harassment again. The next day, I was working in the bakery with an absent mind, which the owner took notice of and then asked me to take a break. So I went ahead and sat down in the customer area, thinking about everything that had been going on lately. "Is there something wrong?" I heard a sweet soft voice of a girl and raised my head to see her. She was sitting on the table beside mine and looking at me with a concerned expression. "Why do you ask?" I did not want to deal with another woman, so I asked in a rude tone. "No, it's just that I've been sitting here for the past half an hour and watching you that you haven't even touched your coffee during that time," she said, and looked over at my coffee, which had become cold by now. "It's just a legal situation. I don't think you'd be able to help me," I said, and got ready to leave the table. "Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sergeant Lucinda Benson." She reached her hand out after saying that, along with a kind smile on her face, which made me look at her in awe. "I'm sorry for being rude. My name is Spencer Green. It's a pleasure meeting you," I said and sat back on the chair. After that, I discussed with her the problem that I was facing and how the girl was falsely accusing me of something that I never did. Lucinda was very mature, and the solution she provided with me was something a person with logic and common sense would easily come up with. But I was in a state of panic, so I never thought about it. The first thing she told me was to stay calm and that there was no need to panic, especially since I'd done nothing wrong. Then she told me that I need to hire an attorney if she were to file any charges against me, because it would be more helpful if I have an experienced attorney advocating for me. And above all, I needed to gather evidence against her. She explained many things along the lines about someone who had been falsely accused and how they could defend themselves. After that, she gave me her number and told me that I could contact her anytime I needed advice or help. As I reached home, I opened Facebook and texted Mary that I have enough proof to claim that I never did anything to her, and I can report her for not only harassing, blackmailing, and even breaking into my house, but she would face charges of defamation as well. I made sure to take a screenshot of her chats, and surprisingly, she did not give any response after that. It must be because she did not think this through before falsely accusing me. One thing that came out as well from this experience was that I met Lucinda. I asked her out on a few dates after that, and after being in a relationship for a long time, I proposed to her. A baker ended up marrying a sergeant. Pretty cool, right? I know that with Lucy by my side, I won't ever need to face someone like that ever again.
I'll always think of Leah as my first love. It just wasn't meant to be. It didn't seem fair to either one of us. I was going off to college halfway across the country. Even at that age, I knew long-distance relationships just didn't work. There may have been a small amount of selfishness involved in my decision, but I assumed Leah would be fine. I put it off as long as I could. With just a week left, I broke the news, and it didn't go well. I spent the entire night trying to convince her that it was for the best, but she never fully seemed to accept it, and things would just get messier from there on. I left that Friday and put that part of my life behind me. Classes kept me busy during the week, but I also worked hard to make friends. Meeting new people isn't hard when you live in the dorms. I was there maybe a month when I met Stacy. She was a sophomore living on the floor above me. We had a lot in common and began dating exclusively almost immediately. This was also about the time the letters started. It was like she knew that I'd met someone and wanted to destroy it. From then on, a week didn't pass without a letter from Leah. I read them and sometimes wrote back in the beginning, but they all began to sound the same after a point. When I returned home for Christmas, she showed up unannounced. She couldn't understand why I had stopped answering the letters. I had explained it over and over. The relationship was done, and it was past time to move on. I felt like I was speaking to a wall at that point. Not a single word got through to her, and I reached my boiling point. I told her to go away and never bother me again. I left her alone on that porch to cry herself out, and she finally left at around 4 a.m. I felt bad for doing things that way, but I just wanted it all to be over. If it took being cruel, so be it. She'd be better off in the long run, and the remainder of my holiday was quiet. I returned to school with a positive outlook and a renewed vigor. It finally appeared my Leah problem was solved, but instead, she escalated things to an entirely new level. Everything came to a head one night in my dorm room. Stacy and I were watching a movie with the lights off. There may have been a little light petting going on. I was occupied when Stacy started yelling. I looked up to see her pointing at the window. Through a small crack in the blinds, I could see a pair of eyes looking in. I grabbed the string and pulled the blinds up. Leah was standing there with a shocked look on her face. I called campus security without saying a word to her. She ran off, but was caught trying to get away a few minutes later. I was determined to end it right there and then. I intended to press charges and get a restraining order against her, and I urged Stacy to do the same. And to her credit, she came up with a better and less complex idea. When security asked what I wanted to do, I put it into Leah's hands. I promised I would take no further action if she promised to leave that second and never contact me or Stacy ever again. It was a big risk, but I was willing to take it. I guess there was still that small part of myself that felt guilty for the breakup. She reluctantly agreed, and the officers allowed her to leave. To be honest, I never expected her to keep the agreement. Nonetheless, it's been 9 years, and I've received no visits, texts, or phone calls from her. There was one short sympathy letter that she sent upon the death of my grandfather. I was so comforted by that thought that I just let it pass. I can't speak as to whether or not Stacy has heard anything, but I suspect that she's had the same experience. I did return home to work in my dad's company after college and have seen Leah around town on occasion, and we just do our best to avoid each other. I've been told in the intervening years that she is married and began a family, and I wish her all the luck in the world and hope the marriage proves to be a very long and happy one.